Thank you for joining me on this journey in decoding Asian urbanism. Asian cities have grown at a scale and a speed that has never been matched before in human history. In fact, over the last 3 decades, the development of Asian cities has surpassed the development of cities worldwide since time immemorial. The risk to the loss of cultural identity, the risk to the loss of specific communities throughout the world is unmatched. And on this journey, a decade-long journey, I've been joined by my co-curators, Professor Kenneth Frampton, distinguished historian of modern architecture from Columbia University, and Ken Yang, a Malaysian architect and ecologist. My name is Farooq Ameen, and I am the curator of this show here in Los Angeles, also called Decoding Asian Urbanism. The effort has involved the exhibition itself, a book that includes all the research that has gone into this effort, including a panel discussion at Harvard University. Please join me. As Professor Kenneth Frampton notes, the last 2 decades have radically transformed the metropolitan centers of the developing world. And the gargantuan, ever-expanding conurbations such as Tokyo or Mumbai or Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Dhaka, and other cities at 50 million persons or more can no longer be regarded as cities in any traditional sense, as cities in any North American or European approach to the city. And not only are these large in terms of population, they are large in terms of size, and they are some of the densest cities in the world, as this map behind me shows, where the most predominantly dense cities are all in India or China or much of Southeast Asia, in stark contrast to the rest of the world. The exhibition Decoding Asian Urbanism is a journey. From looking at this map, we will immerse ourselves in the hyper-intense Asian city in films created by Miriam Kuhlmann. You will then emerge to discover the meanings and decode the city in terms of size and scale. And as you continue this journey, you will be invited to be in a Serenity Room where you will experience the identity and culture of various places as expressed in architecture and city form. You may have many questions at this time, which will be perhaps begin to be revealed in a short video, and which will guide you through the next part of the exhibition, which are examples done by some of the most creative designers in the world, intervening in the city in various parts of Asia. We call these interventions urban acupuncture, much like traditional acupuncture, which is a pinprick in the body itself to heal the body, and where urban acupuncture begins to heal the city and revitalize the city as an intervention in the city fabric. The city of Dhaka is a hyper-dense intensity of colors, movements, modes of traffic, and something that a couple or a family learns to navigate as they live and grow up in this incredibly dense Asian city, which is going to be in the year 2035 the second fastest growing city economy in the world. The second city that you experience is the city of Hong Kong, one of my most favorite cities, which is always in movement 24 hours a day. It is a movement that is a kaleidoscope of the topography, the buildings, the people, The traffic, again, a kind of hyperdensity that is difficult to imagine. A place where the public and private realms collide and coexist in an incredibly wonderful balance. Tokyo, which is the largest city in the world today, approaching 40 million, is the city that we're going to look at next. And I think it's best exemplified by the Shibuya Crossing, one of the busiest pedestrian crossings in the world, where people move and walk closely together, respectful of everyone else's presence, but carefully and without incident, moving across like a river flows within nature. An intensity of colors, of sounds, and of people just being together. In an introduction to the Great Leap Forward, which is a research document at the GSD at Harvard, Rem Koolhaas, the Dutch architect, noted that Asia has been in the grip of a relentless process of building that has never been seen before in humankind. And this modernization is destroying culture everywhere. Many of the maps that you see displayed here represent cities as they were perceived and drawn 120 years ago. For example, you see here a map of the city of Delhi in 1858, which is barely a pinprick in this phenomenal city that it has developed into today, a city of nearly 21,000 square miles, a density of 29,000 square miles, which is multiple times the density of almost any American city. We begin to look at the speed of development in various cities throughout the world, and you will notice that the speed itself begins to accelerate as we approach the new millennium. So, Bangkok in the post-World War era is still a very compact city, but as we begin to approach, for example, the millennium, it begins to expand geographically at a pace and intensity that does not match anything that we've seen before. In this section of the city, we begin to look at and compare the densities of population in the heart of the city itself. So if Hong Kong seems dense in comparison to Los Angeles, we must remember that Hong Kong has a population density of about 17 million persons per square mile, whereas the city of Manila has a population density of nearly 120,000 persons per square mile, a density that is incomprehensible in Los Angeles, which is barely 8,500 persons per square mile. As we begin to get a sense of the size and scale of Asian cities, we must remember that with the promise of development comes a confrontation between global capital and informal economy. As many of these photographs will show you, the embracing of a highway of the freeway system in Shanghai or in Delhi or in Mumbai also displaces large numbers of people, and the vehicle begins to take on an identity of its own, which is sharply different from many of the centers of community as we have known them through history. It's also a conflict between how cities are designed and how they're actually used. So the Hong Kong walkways on Main's Day Off might become the living room for hundreds of Mains that have no other place to go. Or a busy road might become a prayer hall on Fridays in some of the densest cities in the world. This is what we call the Serenity Room. It's a place of contemplation, a place of introspection for us to consider how place and culture and topography and geography have helped shape the architecture and city form of cultures and cities throughout Asia. This is a brief video that guides us through the rest of the exhibition. It helps explain the issues in Asian cities today very succinctly, and then explains why the various urban acupunctures, the various urban interventions, how they act, and the challenges they address in the Asian city. What you see behind me is a matrix that organizes how me and my co-curators chose the 15 projects that you will see in this exhibition. These are examples of urban acupuncture interventions that act like a little pinprick acts in the human body. They are small in terms of the size of the city, but they have an impact just like a needle, an acupuncture needle would. We looked at the way they perform this urban acupuncture. For example, they might engage the earth, or they might enable mobility, or they might adopt ecology. And we also looked at the impact that they might have. So, for example, the Yokohama terminal engages the earth and uses the intervention itself to extend the city out into the waterfront, which is the largest asset of the city of Yokohama. These are the 15 urban interventions or urban acupuncture that we will be looking at today. They include, for example, Sejong, a new administrative town in South Korea, or the Solaris Tower, for example, or the number parks in Osaka. One of the first urban interventions that we're going to look at is Sejong Public Administrative Town. It is in Sejong City, and the way this urban intervention works is by placing the city in nature itself and enabling nature to penetrate each and every component of the hard infrastructure that makes up the new capital complex. Number Parks, based in Osaka, Japan, weaves nature with urban hardscape, interconnecting a terrace park with culture, workplace, and mobility, located along one of the busiest transit stations in Osaka, situated on top of a shopping mall, adjacent to an office building, along an existing bikeway that connects this part of the city to others throughout the city of Osaka. It revitalizes an old Olympic stadium. The walkways in Hong Kong are an incredibly wonderful and intricate system of walkways that connects office buildings, shopping malls, ferry terminals, marketplaces, and allows people to move from the public sidewalk and walkways through malls and through office buildings without ever touching ground. The linked hybrid is an example of an urban acupuncture where New York-based architect Stephen Hole explores the idea of using sky bridges as social condensers. In many ways, they act as elevated public loops which allow people to experience the city from high above in the sky. An example of perhaps reframing the Hong Kong walkways in the heart of the city of Beijing. The Kanchenjunga apartments in the city of Mumbai, designed by Charles Correa in the mid-1980s, is a phenomenal example of the transformation of a prototype. It's about taking the bungalow with the wraparound veranda and placing it in a dense residential tower in the heart of the city. It's about what Charles Correa called embracing the blessings of the sky. The Shanghai Tower, located in Pudong, at the heart of Shanghai, uh, explores the idea of rearranging public squares along a vertical city, creating in many ways these sky lobbies that embrace communities of about 15 floors each. It is an attempt at creating a vertical community, if you will, of sky gardens. The Solaris office building is located in Fusionopolis in Singapore and designed by Ken Yang, my co-curator of this exhibition. And it's really about creating a new sustainable ecology. And it's about embedding a vertical park in a bioclimatic tower in the midst of the city. The Yanweizhou Wetland Park in Jinhua City, China, is an example of a landscape acupuncture, a landscape urban intervention that embodies the principles of the smart city. And this it does by embracing floodwater with resilient terracing, which has resulted in the park itself being one of the most visited places in Jinhua City. The Kunli Stormwater Park in Harbin City, China, also designed by Tourandscape, is another example of a sponge city interpretation which retains and contains water at the source and has enabled the creation of another wonderful park which has become the center of development all around it. In the smart city concept that Tourandscape has embraced, it's about embedding architectural components, creating a ground level public platform, filling in the rings, and then enabling new rings, and finally creating this wonderful wetland park itself. And finally, here we are in the heart of Hong Kong. We are in the midst of an image that has been duplicated and replicated many times, much like you've seen in the immersive films that we began with. It tells you about the intensity of experiences in the Asian cities. And it's a moment where everyone has had an opportunity to step back and be in the midst of this experience of decoding Asian urbanism. As our visitors come to the conclusion of the exhibition Decoding Asian Urbanism, they will have an opportunity to look at the largest city in the old world from the year 1500 to 2100. And if we think Asian cities such as Tokyo or Mumbai or Delhi at 37 million to 40 million are large, it would be prudent of us to become aware that by the year 2100, the largest cities in the world will actually be in Africa. In fact, the largest city by the year 2100 is projected to be Lagos, Nigeria, with a population of 88 million. As urban designers, as architects, as policymakers, as elected officials, we must learn to take on even more intense challenges with the city. And this is the last thought that I would like to leave you with as you decode Asian urbanism with us. Thank you.